Hey y'all, it's Dr. Know-It-All. With my son, we're going to his school, then I'm going to go to the gym. We're doing a multi-point trip, so that'll be cool. And I'm going to engage full self-driving 10.9, and we're going to see how it works. So I'm starting right here with a problematic area that the thing always has, right? Because it always stops too early and then it creeps forward. So who knows if it's been fixed this time. Every once in a while it just sort of works magically anyway, but we'll see how it goes. And also the maps have anyway, the maps have been updated, and if you haven't watched it already, watch the release notes thing, because there's a whole bunch of improvements. Now it did the same thing. So you can see where the line is, where it should actually come to a stop. So it's still doing the same basic idea. But what I'm hoping for, well, okay, that was interesting. A little bit hesitant. Yeah, it's still, see, this is a 50-mile-an-hour zone, and so it still has that incorrect, so that's unfortunate. Anyway, Hayden got up extra early so we could get to the school extra early this morning. Because usually we're like pushing the exact limit of when school starts, and I was like, hey, I want to test out the full self-driving beta. So anyway, he was very kind and got up early. You know, as a teenager, getting up early is a thing, so. All right, anyway, so I've got, obviously, always with this, oh gosh, okay, slow down, folks. Don't know why it's not slowing down. It needs to slow down, okay. A little more aggressive than I would have been. Anyway, normally I'd go left there, and I've talked about that in another video as well, so if you want to watch that, I've talked about why I don't use full self-driving beta all the time, and one of the reasons is it doesn't navigate the most efficient way. But so anyway, we're just gonna let it do its thing this morning, and obviously it will route as it needs to. I'm very curious how it's going to work with all of that. By the way, I was being a little bit scaredy cat back there, but it wasn't that bad. Okay, so this is interesting. I don't know if it's going to get itself over, because what I would do here is, okay, I'm worried it's actually going to miss the light doing this. I'm going to let it go. I would normally, of course, get over into the left lane. I would, you know, sort of cheat through the double yellow just a little bit, because it should be fine. But anyway, we'll see. We'll see what it does. If it misses the light, it misses the light. We're a little bit early this morning, so we got time. All right, car, let's see. Okay, so now it gets over. So it was being very obedient to the law, but that's one of those situations where, just to sort of fill up both lanes of traffic. Oh wow, what a pretty sunrise this morning. All right. Ooh, gosh. Okay. That Suburban kind of crossed into, is that a Suburban? Yeah. That Suburban sort of crossed into our lane, and I noticed that it corrected for the steering right at the last second. So anyway, you'll get some nice views of the sunrise as the car. Woo! All right. Good for it. I mean, I probably would have braked a little bit more than that. That was much less hesitant than it's been in the past, because that truck was, it did a good job of modeling that, right? Did you feel unsafe? Okay, Hayden's good. He was like, I'm good with this. So that felt a little bit funky that it just kept on going, because I'm used to it braking in those situations, but it was actually very cool that it didn't brake, because that was much smoother. The biggest problem, especially with 10.8.1, was a lot of phantom braking, so I'm curious to see how it's going to work. Now, this is 10.9 still, so I expect when we get on the highway, it's going to go back to the old stack, which will change the visualization. And actually, since you don't really care about where we're navigating to, I'll pull this into full screen so we get the prettier visualization. I think this looks a lot more solid than it has in the past. Now, here again is a problem. I don't know what it's going to do, because it needs to get over. Okay, well, it got over one lane. That's good. Okay, so that was earlier than it's done in the past. This is always a sketchy area, because it needs to get over into this lane where all these guys are to make the turn onto the highway. So in the past, it's actually stayed, oh, that's cool, I guess the sun just rose. In the past, it's actually stayed in the left lane until the last possible second, but you can see how snarly this is trying to get over to the highway turn. So I'm very curious. It should, if I were it, I would kind of try to bounce in front of this van that's right to the side of me, or maybe it can go over right now. Good job, good job, good job. Okay, sorry. It's squeezing in. It's doing a good job, and it needs to get over. I don't know what it's doing. Oh, okay. That was a violent move. Not the best thing in the world. Again, I'm letting it go. Come on, dude. Okay, there we go. All right, I didn't press the accelerator. I was very tempted to, because sometimes you need to give it a little nudge. So that was not perfect, but that was a heck of a lot better than it's done in the past, because in the past it's just missed that turn entirely, which is one of the reasons I wanted to leave extra early, because I figured there was a reasonable chance that it would miss and have to reroute. So that was good. I mean, and especially in relatively heavy traffic. So now I'm expecting in just a second it's going to go back to the old visualization. Oh, interesting. I think in the previous version it went back to the small screen when it went to the other stack, but now it's staying full screen. So that's very cool. Anyway, all that stuff on the old stack, as soon as we get off the highway, you'll see the visualization will change. There it goes. So now we're back on the full self-driving beta stack. Really, really beautiful sunrise. I love those low clouds. It's very pretty. All right, so there's a car behind me. In the past, it's had an issue with not getting over quite far enough to tell people to indicate that it's going to the right until it gets into that lane. So I'm hoping it does that right now. There it goes. Okay. Yeah, it's just because the people behind you will try to sneak in if they think you're going straight instead of to the right. So, all right. This is again a little bit, if the light changes, it won't be a problem at all. But if we have to creep out and actually turn with traffic going 55 miles an hour down that road, it's a little, it's a little dicey. Actually, the car is honestly too hesitant at that point. It should go faster out in there, but we'll see how this goes. So I've talked about this before, but I kind of have a hybrid driving system that I normally use. And what I do is I take it out of, the full self-driving stack. Whoa, that was very, very nice. Okay, but way too slow on the road. Okay, so it should have pulled out. It was very good. It just kind of pulled out and it did its thing, but it should have, right? It should have accelerated more. Yeah, okay. Hayden agrees with me. It should have done its thing. So anyway. All right, so now I guess we'll let it go through the parking lot and we'll see how, there's a lot of speed bumps in the parking lot, so it'll be an interesting test. Like I said, okay, let's see if it bails going through this light. Interesting. All right, so that was a little awkward just because of the timing of the lane change. It sort of put it, halfway through the lane change, or most of the way through the lane change as it got up to the light. And again, under normal circumstances, what you'd want to do is make sure that you complete the lane change before you get to the intersection. I believe it's actually considered to be illegal, although I've never heard anybody get a ticket for it if you go in there. So let's see. Yep, okay. We're gonna let it go through the parking lot. So this will be an unprotected left, and there's nobody coming, amazingly enough. Oh, there must be a red light there. So usually this is just packed with traffic, but okay. Oh, okay. I have never taken full self-driving through this area before, so I'm very curious what it's going to do. And that is beautiful. Man, those fields. What a pretty morning. It's been kind of cruddy weather lately, so it's nice to see. Okay, that was nice. All right. It's got the speed limit set to 15, so that's a good thing because it definitely doesn't need to go faster than that. And there's some really big speed bumps. These first ones are kind of gentle, but it gets really big after that, so I will disengage the autopilot if it fails. Alright, so it's visualizing the curb decently well, okay, and I'm not seeing the speed bumps, but it seems to be slowing down for him a little bit, so I don't know. Does anybody ever park here during the day?
Yes.
Oh, they do? Okay. It just seems like it's so empty during...
this is probably like where people who...
Yeah, just for athletics.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh, that's really close to that. Okay, I'm not seeing that it's visualizing these things sticking out, and it's making me a little bit nervous. I don't want it to hit the curb or anything. All right, that's interesting. It considered that to be a turn. So this is why I don't let it drive through here, because it's just kind of like it's much faster to go down the road and just like go that way. But anyway, all right. I have no. Oh, okay. I'm disengaging just because. Okay, so it thinks that's where we're supposed to go. So again, that's not the fault of this thing because it's confused. So I'm going to go ahead and get us to his drop off, and then we'll go on to the next destination, which is the gym. So, all right. What I didn't get to try out, and I'm interested in if it will visualize these bumps coming up here, because these are big ones and you have to go very slow. Nope. It doesn't seem to see those at all. That would be bad. Oh, it did? Oh, it sees it on the other side. Okay, yeah, it's like at the last second though, so I'm not positive. I don't know. One of these days when I have a little more guts, I'll give it a shot, because it's a little nerve-wracking going over these, because clearly what you have to do is go over at about 5 to 10 miles an hour. So it's not seeing that one at all. Yeah, so that makes me nervous. I feel like if I was using the full self-driving, it would actually go over those bumps too fast. You have to be really careful. So it seems like if it's straight across, it visualizes it, but otherwise it doesn't. So interesting. All right, we're gonna drop you off. Hold on a sec. Unlock the door. All right. Cool. Thank you for riding with me, and thank you for getting up early. I appreciate that.
Thank you for not killing your car.
Did pretty good. That was actually pretty chill today. All right. Do you want to wait till I pull forward more?
Yeah.
Okay. All righty. Go Spartans. Have a good day.
You too.
All right, bye-bye. Okay. So now I'm going to see if I can re-engage the autopilot. Give me just a minute to get out of this turnaround. Good visualization. Oh, right, we need to look at the intersections. I'm going to wait till I get up to this intersection. I'm actually going to wait until I get out, because I think it's going to route us back through the parking lot again if I do that, and that would be just silly. So actually, let's see what it says, because it'll show even if it's gray. Yeah, it was going to route us through the parking lot. So, and that's viable. I mean, it does work, obviously, but it's not the greatest solution because of the speed bumps and the fact that it's a parking lot. And also, anyway, I'm going to put it out here just so it gets on the right track, and then engage autopilot. Okay, so here we go. So when we get up here to this red or green light, started doing what my wife does. She, instead of saying light, she always says red light, and I'm like, oh no, I've started saying it like her. Anyway, I'm curious what the intersection is going to look like, because that was one of the major release notes, was that they said that first thing that's like the big paragraph that's really, really dense in the release notes talks about how it models the intersections better. And again, you can watch my video on that if you're interested. If you want like all the details, but I'm just kind of going through and driving it now. It feels like there's a lot less phantom braking going on right now, so that's a plus. The last version did have a little, it's kind of like sometimes like that. So, all right, let's see how this intersection visualizes here. So what we should see is, again, it's red over here because it's not quite positive. There's also that weird, I don't know if you can see it, but there's like a big white dot hanging out. So some people go around to the right of that into the kind of, I guess, I don't know, illegal or whatever spot, and other people actually go out into the road, and they put that white dot there to sort of keep people from going in the white hashed area, but people do anyway. So I'm curious what the car will do. I think it goes around the white line. In fact, most of the time it does. So anyway, this looks pretty solid. It doesn't have a super visualization of the far edges, but it's pretty good. And these are not flickering, as far as I can remember, nearly as much as they have before. Again, the left lane, the left berm over here, or border to the road, is less clear because it's further away, but this one is really solid. So it looks like it's doing a very good job of visualizing how all this works. I'm going to actually get a light, so that'll be nice. It's going to turn green for us. So let's see what it does. And it goes, oh geez, I don't know where it's going. Okay. I need to, oh, it's still trying to get all right. Yeah, okay, I need to tell it to continue trip. All right. Whoops, sorry about that. I should have checked as I was going. I was like, where are we going? It's just going to go straight and be happy. All right. Well, that was fun. Sometimes, especially when you have the navigation covered and you don't notice that it's not going someplace. I've actually done that going home a few times. I've just started to just taken it and put it in autopilot and not realized I haven't told it I was going home. And then it'll just keep going straight, and I'll be like, oh crap, oh gosh. Jeez. It's a high speed differential between the right and the left lane here. All right. job so far. Again, since it hadn't continued the trip yet, and that's my fault. If I'd had the thing pulled over, I would have seen that I needed to do continued trip instead. So apparently it was just thinking it was driving around and around Athens Academy. So I still haven't quite figured out the whole Waypoint thing, because I think if you get out of the car and actually make a stop, like if you go to the store or something, then it will automatically reset to the next leg of your trip, but otherwise you do have to push the continue trip button. So anyway, it all works. And again, let's take a look at the intersection here. So a little fuzzy over there, a little fuzzy over there. This one's very clear, and it seems to be able to identify the median over on that side. So everything very close by is good. The only thing that really matters to us, of course, is this area. And it seems to have a slight, issue with exactly where the line is up there for the lane marking. But this is, again, I wish I kind of had like a before and after comparison, but I believe that this thing is significantly more like solid than it was. It used to flicker a lot more. So, and it also looks like it's creating sort of guesses at how you would turn, like right turn, left turn, sort of not lane markings, but lane, I don't know what paths, like a place that you would go, like if there was a marking, if you were going to make a right turn, it would go there. So we definitely need to get into the right lane, not at this light, but before the next light, because it's a left turn only. So I'll be curious to see when it gets to that. Again, okay, so normally I would just hop over into the right lane to be out of the way of everybody else, but whatever. It's doing a very good job so far. Let's see how it handles this. So, okay, and there's a car coming, but yep, okay, good. That was actually really a nice move. You can't tell from the video, but it did the correct thing. As it made the lane change, it accelerated, which is the correct. Like, you don't want to make the lane change. It's like a student driver, like with all of my kids and with Hayden when he learns to drive. It's going to be like he'll pull into the lane and going slow and then accelerate, but you need to do both of those at the same time. All right, that was a little funky, Nobody was behind me. It was all good. So yeah, that was a little bit weird, but that was okay. At least it figured it out before it would have become dangerous, because it only made that turn a little bit. So it shifted over into the left lane, then realized that it was a left turn lane, and it made the change. So anyway, I don't know if you can see right now, but of course I have my hand, my left hand is on the steering wheel at all times pretty much. Unless I'm at a stoplight, in which case I'll take my hands off the wheel because I can't really go anywhere then. So yeah, it's doing, the visualization seems good. I'll be curious here. This area, it tends to have a lot of phantom braking. So, and it seems like it's better already. I mean, with 10.8.1, it had a lot of phantom braking through this road. And I know it's a relatively straight line, and this is kind of, it's kind of weirdly, I guess because I'm usually a few minutes later, because he's always pushing the boundaries, that it feels a little less crowded than normal. So anyhow, it's all good. There's nobody close behind me, so we'll just tool along at the speed we got and not worry about it. But so far, no brakes. Oh wait, as soon as I said that, it braked just a little bit, just a hair. That wasn't too bad. Before, it's been kind of like, it would kind of go like that and slow down by. All right. So sorry about that loss there. That was the stupid alarm going on. And I guess when the alarm goes, it's crazy. That's like the stupidest thing, that the phone will override your video that's shooting with the alarm. Anyway, I was driving down the road. I drive down this with autopilot a lot, and with 10.8.1, it had a lot of phantom braking through the section that I missed because of the alarm. As I was talking about, I'm sure, when the alarm happened and it turned off the video. But anyway, it much less braking. Just a couple of really light touches on the brakes, but in general, it worked great. Again, this is feeling really comfortable for the most part. The earlier versions, and I know I've only had this since 10.3, but with that, it was really like, holy crap, I'm taking my life into my hands. Not that it was actually unsafe, but it just felt like it would accelerate and decelerate and move around a little bit, and it was honestly not being unsafe, but it just felt scary. And again, I know I'm getting used to it, so I feel much much more comfortable. But with 10.8.1, a lot of times I would just not use the autopilot feature or the full self-driving beta feature, whatever. I wouldn't use it sometimes just because I would be like, I'll just be more comfortable if I drive myself. And this circumstance is great because I feel like 10.9 is a lot smoother and I'm more comfortable letting it drive so far. I know this is just the first drive with it, but it feels pretty darn good. Like I'm feeling very confident. I'm talking again. Of course, I'm monitoring the road, but it's really like the steering wheel. I don't know if you can tell, but it's barely moving, right? So it's not jerking around like this and making really rapid steers. It's doing things very, very calmly for the most part. Again, right? It tried to get into a left turn lane for a little bit or something. So there's some funky places still, but I definitely am detecting significant improvement here. So let's see how it deals with this. This is a depending on what's going on. If I hit this before traffic is coming out, like, yeah, this should actually be not too bad. So let's take a look. Nobody's behind me, so I'm just going to let it do its thing. All right, very smooth. Okay. Again, it's going to be okay. So that could have been smoother just because what it kind of did the turn. It needs to get over here. I don't know where it's going. There we go. And it should decelerate here a little bit because it needs to get into this turn lane. There we go. Okay. And this is an unprotected left. Ooh, scary, scary, scary. Okay, nobody's coming. It's a little bit blocked by that hill, but it did a good job there. All right. And it's in the parking lot, so, oh gosh, okay. I don't know quite where it was going. I should have let it continue, sorry. I don't know. But anyway, so that was, let me just pull in here. Actually, let me pull in backwards so I don't have the sun shining straight in the camera lens, because that would be annoying. All right. So sorry about the 8 o'clock alarm going off and stopping the video. It was not cherry picking any moments. So I have to say, let me just check and make sure this is running. Yep. Okay. So thoughts. 10.9 is a definite improvement over 10.8.1. It's one of those things where it's like, it's such a subtle difference now. It's like we're getting closer and closer. And so what happens is, at the beginning, when you have lots of changes to make, there's kind of a steep curve in terms of the difference between each version of the software, because there's just a lot of changes need to be made to make it better. What we've got here is something that's getting closer and closer to really good. And so the differences are more subtle now. But what I feel from this drive is that the car it's just more confident and it's just smoother and it just kind of chills. And I don't know, it's one of those things where with 10.8.1, and I talked about that in the video, definitely watch that one, not the driving video, but one where I talk about not using full self-driving all the time. This is beginning to feel like, except for some navigation issues like going around behind the mall instead of through the big heavy traffic, and that lane change, onto the highway was a little dicey. It could have done that a little earlier, but honestly, it didn't do too bad of a job. I probably would have done more or less the same thing myself, because, you don't want to sit in a huge line of traffic. It's better to just sneak in at the last second. So it felt a little teeny bit last second to me, but I don't know that I would have done it much difference myself. So, maybe that's just me not trusting it that it's going to get there, but it did. And again, I guess you could say I disengaged here at the very end, but that's because I was planning on disengaging anyway. And I did have to do that on the highway, briefly, but again, because of the merging thing, and it was just me trying to be nicer to the other people. It wasn't really a safety issue because the person was braking, so we would have figured it out. But anyway, that's not on the new stack's fault. So for the most part, yeah, I guess you could say I disengaged here at the very, very end. But again, I don't think it needed it. I think that was just me disengaging it a couple of seconds before we got to the parking lot because we were already here. So count it as you will. But for the most part, that was a pretty long drive, and it was very confidence inspiring. And I feel like 10.9 has made a big step. I'm still gonna say end of the 2022 again. I'll hold on to that. And what I'm really waiting for, the big data point that I'm waiting for, of course, is version 11 of the software. That's going to be where things go when we get to the highway stack. and a whole bunch of new things. I'll also be interested. I was going to test this out last night, but by the time the software installed, it was like 1 o'clock in the morning. But I really want to do a full self-driving beta test at night now that it's beginning to use the photon counting and the undoctored video, which again I've talked about in other videos as well. So I'll be curious about that. This is pretty nice conditions. It's a nice bright sunny day, so you know it has pretty good conditions for driving at this point. So anyway, those are my thoughts. I'll be curious to know what you all think about this. If you're driving full self-driving beta 10.9, let me know what you think about the differences. Like I said, for me it's a very subtle difference, but it's a really important subtle difference. It's like the difference between somebody who's been driving for a couple of weeks and somebody who's been driving like, you know, 5 or 6 months. And that's an impressive thing, right? If we can get from the very, very early stage learner driver to somebody who's a more competent driver, you know, still not great, but a more competent driver, then the improvement can move up to like somebody who's been driving for a year, and then somebody who's been driving for 5 years, and somebody who's been driving for 10 years. And you can see how the path, even though it's subtle at this point, could very quickly lead to, you know, so how long have I been driving? Geez, been driving for 40 years. You could see how it could very quickly ramp up past somebody with my experience. It could go, this could happen within a couple of years. And it doesn't even have to get to that. You know, once it gets to the quality level of a good driver who's been driving for like 4 or 5 years or something, then it's going to be safer than a lot of people under a lot of circumstances. So that's, you know, pretty amazing. Anyway, this gives me confidence. Every time I sit with the full self-driving for too long, one version of it, I'm like, yeah, I start to see all the little teeny details that are not as good. But every time I get a new version, I'm like, wow, you know, this is really impressive stuff, and it's world changing, and it's gonna get good. All right. Anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for watching my ramble at the end. I really hope you enjoy this. If you do, please do like the video so other people can find it, and I will talk to you all later. Bye-bye.